Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
An obscure body in the SK system, Your Majesty. The inhabitants refer to it as
The Ron Pertee Show.
All right, everybody, we're back, and with me right now, as promised before, the man behind the amazing film, because yes, I've seen it before you. Oh wow, I love this title too. The man behind the man who killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot, Bob Krzykowski. Thank you so much for being on, Bob.
Hi, Ron. Hey, thanks for having me, Ron.
I love this movie. And the thing is people will not expect what they get from the title.
Good. I mean, there was always a part of all of us that were making this that hoped that we thought it was funny when we first put the first news out that people were putting pictures of Harry from Harry and the Hendersons up and kind of picking on it and whatnot, and we were fine with it. People would be like, "Oh, we got to go set the narrative straight," and we said, "Well, the kind of the fun of movies is to surprise people and just let it happen as it will." So we made, from there we made the movie and then brought it to festivals, and slowly, piece by piece, kind of people discovered what it actually is. But that was always part of the mission for us, is to just let it be and let people find it as they will. And that was a big reason why there was no trailer until very, very recently. We wanted to let quite a few audiences just come to this completely blank. That's my favorite way to experience a movie, and it was pretty cool that we were supported in doing it that way by the distributor and by the studio that made it.
And I've got to say, I haven't seen A Star Is Born, but I like to think that Sam Elliott's going to get another Oscar for this movie. And it's, in particular, there's one scene, and it's at his dining room table with Ron Livingston. Yeah,
and Rizwan Manji.
Yeah, that scene is just so powerful. You pack so you kind of take a, well, I mean, that's the thing, is you can't say that you take a revisionist history turn on there, because you don't know if the government really did that.
Yeah, I mean, the writing challenge was to figure out how we could still be living in a timeline where Hitler was killed and none of us know about it. So once that puzzle was solved, it kind of let me focus on the character elements of the story, but I had to figure that out. And so that scene in the movie is an opportunity to explain all of the fantasy and all of the strangeness of it and make it all seem real. And Sam came to do that, and Ron came to do that, and Rizwan. But when Sam gives his speech about Nazism and this notion that ideas can be plague-like and that they continue beyond the person that created them, it was thunder and lightning out, which we had to remove from between Sam speaking. All of a sudden it would start to lightning and thunder, and it just felt very biblical, this this moment. And it was a hot, muggy summer night, and everybody's crammed into a corner of my dining room watching him deliver, this group of people deliver 11, 12 pages of dialogue in long, unbroken 20-minute takes. They wanted to do this entire sequence in long takes. So it was a thing to watch. And I can't speak to awards or anything like that. I know Sam is brilliant in A Star Is Born, but he's really beautiful and heartbreaking in this movie too. And I at least hope people get to see it, because he did something special here. He came to do something, and when he left, he told me, he said, I did what I set out to do here, and that meant a lot.
Well, now you're for those who don't know, you also produced another film of mine that I really loved, and that's The Woman.
Yeah, Lucky McKee downstairs in my house right now. He is here. So.
Oh wow! You tell him from me that I think he's amazing, and you are just as amazing, sir. Because he produced this movie too. This is like when I was watching the screener, I'm like, oh my God, Lucky McKee. And yeah. So
Lucky and I developed this movie for the last almost a decade. We met in 2010 on The Woman. It was supposed to be made in Michigan, I believe. and their tax credit fell through, so they brought it to Massachusetts, but they didn't really have a producer on the ground that could put a bunch of elements together really quickly. And I only kind of tangentially worked in film at the time. I was much more of a writer and a script doctor, and I was working on people's screenplays and writing my own. But I knew a lot of the local filmmaking talent out here, so they asked me, could you help kind of connect the dots? And it wound up being so much of that they were kind enough to make me a producer on the film, and that pulled me into that world.
And now you have, I mean, I don't know what you said. You worked on this for 10 years, so obviously when you were writing
this movie itself was over 12 years. Working with Lucky on it was 9 years now.
Well, either way, though, I mean, when you were writing it and stuff, it's and working out all the details, the things that Sam says in that scene, they don't. I mean, you didn't know that they were going to resonate so hard in today's climate.
You don't want words like that to resonate.
No,
today.
you don't.
You know, that was the thing that Sam and I, the Charlottesville protests were happening as he was giving that speech. It was literally within days of it. And we just thought there's no reason in the world that the things he's talking about should be relevant right now. And the fact that they are is very disturbing. And we weren't trying to make a comment. This movie doesn't necessarily have a political statement, but I've always seen it as a plea for a certain type of decency that is definitely not with everyone, but it's fading in some quadrants. And again, it wasn't, we weren't excited that it had any relevancy.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. That's just, oh man. But I mean, is it luck? You know, not lucky, yeah, that you got Sam Elliott, Ron Livingston, Larry Miller. I mean, and the creature effects for Bigfoot. You know, Doug Turnbull did them.
Yep, Doug Trumbull was.
Trumbull, yes.
He was an executive producer on the movie, and he brought on Richard Urasich, who was the visual effects supervisor. Doug did some actual visual effects himself, and Richard oversaw the entire production, because there's a lot of little hidden effects across the movie, and then some very obvious ones. But the creature was created by Spectral Motion. Michael Elzalde, who had done Hellboy and Stranger Things and a lot of creature features over the years, Attack the Block, and many, many more. So an incredible team of people gathered around to make this movie. So, I mean, for a first-time filmmaker, it's a surreal thing to look back and go, I can't believe after 12 years all of these people came together to make this specific movie. But there was something that every single person that came to it said they wanted to say with it. And it was a very unified statement, kind of what John Sayles does with his movies. He's an executive producer on this movie. And my favorite thing about John as a filmmaker is that he is entertaining and he has something to say, and he's able to say it without preaching, especially in movies like Matewan and Lone Star and Passion Fish. That's his gift, and it's something that I look up to and something that I can only try to approximate. So
one of the things I love about this movie so much is that while the title makes it sound like it's an exploitation picture, you do give a little bit to the fans of exploitation about 3/4 of the way through the movie. And you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to.
Yeah, I do. I've been in I just was in a theater on Saturday night. We had 2 sold out, jam-packed screenings, and 2 women started dry heaving so badly that I thought somebody was going to throw up. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was.
It felt like it was time for the audience to get what they came for, and we'd hoped they'd gotten more in the character aspect of the film, but we knew that there's not just a quadrant of the audience, but a large portion of the audience that they came for that title, and they came for the catharsis of that, and it was time to deliver. So you get the best of both worlds.
And plus, when he finally decides to go through with it, and he lands where he's supposed to land, that whole setup, just, you know, that, and then leading into that part where people were getting sick. That's that whole segment right there is kind of like pretty exploitation-ish, but it's awesome, and it's just, and it fits. It doesn't take you out of the movie. And now my question is, did you have anybody who you sent the script to who looked at the title and was just like, that needed some convincing?
Oh yeah, and I mean, we would send the script to 20 people, and only one out of every 20 would get it, really get what we were trying to do. And it was always the one out of the 20 that was the most special. They were the one that we really needed to get it. And if they didn't, we would have been really, really heartbroken. It often would have been kind of a full reset for that sector of the film, some department head or a producer or an actor. But it was always our favorite person that ended up saying, yeah, I'm in, let's do this. And let's protect it and make sure it gets to be exactly what we're trying to do here. So it became kind of a wall that got built around the movie so that it wouldn't get messed with.
Now, when you got distribution for how soon after you finished did you get distribution for this? Was this something that you kind of had to really kind of dive for, or was somebody right there to pick it up?
I'm pretty sure that there was somebody right there to pick it up, and there were a few suitors that were extremely interesting, and RLJ wound up getting the film, and we were just really excited about them because they'd just done Mandy, and they were releasing that, and they were doing a terrific job with the rollout of that movie, and they also just had a ton of passion, and they didn't want to change anything. They wanted to leave the movie alone, and it felt very much like we had just met a new group of collaborators. We'd met a new favorite people on the team, and when you're making an independent film, there's a lot of collaboration and a lot of trust, and we trusted RLJ to what they wanted to do with this film and releasing it, and that's about to happen in just about 2 weeks.
Which is going to be great. It's going to February 8th. It comes out in select theaters on VOD and digital HD. Is there any kind of a release date set up for DVD and Blu-ray?
I'm pretty sure it's April 2nd. And I know that we've put together a lot of fun, kind of old school, a lot of special features. My favorite releases were always the ones that gave you a lot of information on the filmmaking and how it works and how all the moving parts come together, and try to highlight the contributions of the team. And so the Blu-ray has a lot of that explain how a small movie like this can have all these great people come together and also have some scope and feel like a cinematic movie, though we're pulling every trick in the book to just barely squeak it through in a 25-day shoot.
And for those of you who are big fans of practical effects, I'm assuming Bigfoot was practical.
Yeah, entirely. It goes so far back that we were inspired by kind of like the Universal movie monsters. So I mean, it's a very old-fashioned approach to the creature, and what we wanted from that was Mark Steger, who performed the Bigfoot. He's a real actor and an intelligent performer that can do so much with body language, but he also wanted to kind of understand the 200-year unspoken history of this creature, being haunted and lonely and sick, and innocent. That's the other thing that I think is important to note about the Bigfoot, is that it's not a true villain. You have Hitler on one side, who was real, yet he was a monster. And on the other side, you have Bigfoot, and he's mythic and is completely innocent. And they're both spreading plagues. Hitler's spreading a plague of ideas, and Bigfoot's plague is literal. And these were some of the themes we were playing with in this movie, where you can get away with something that strange, and then at the center you have this very real human performance from Sam Elliott and Larry Miller and Caitlin Fitzgerald and Aidan Turner, and the entire cast came and took it very, very seriously, though we were all having a lot of fun too.
And that dog was such a good dog.
It's a very good dog. That's Sally, our executive producer, Louise Lovegrove, who was also the line producer on the film and made sure that we stayed on budget, which is an unsung hero of a production like this, is making every single penny count. And she found ways to just pull miracles out of this budget. And that's her actual dog, who's not a movie dog, but is so well trained and such a good, just a good dog, that we wound up taking the risk and saying, let's make this Ralph and see how she does. And she was incredible. Anything you see that dog do in the movie, there's even more fun stuff the dog was doing that you just can't put it all in. But she's an actor.
That's fantastic. And I know I know you got to take off, Bob, but I just got to say right now for everybody out there, I don't see another movie coming out this year as good as this one.
Wow.
I,
Thanks.
I kind of
That's just
I put you up there. I put you up there with like because this is your first movie. I put you up there with Jordan Peele and Boots Riley. People like that. This is such a when people see this movie, they're gonna want to watch it again and again and tell their friends. And I hope everybody and all the listeners out there go and check this movie out February 8th on VOD, select theaters, and digital HD. Bob, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for your time and for wanting to talk to me.